if you go to the core root, I don't feel enough. I think it's a really basic statement. And that comes from comparison. That comes from what we've come to see through social media, to the collective narrative of what's worthy of love or attraction. And so we will measure ourselves by what we've come to know and what has been put in front of us. When we start getting out of the comparing and what we've been programmed to be, then we start to soften. Then we start to ask questions such as, who would I be if I didn't give a shit about this? What would I be doing if it didn't really matter if I had an education? What life would I be able to attract or create whether I had a partner or not?
Welcome to the Relationship Diversity Podcast, where we celebrate, question, and explore all aspects of relationship structure diversity, from soloamory to monogamy to polyamory and everything in between, because every relationship is as unique as you are. We'll bust through societal programming to break open and dissect everything we thought we knew about relationships, to ask the challenging but transformational questions: who am I, and what do I really want in my relationships? I'm your guide, Carrie Jaroslaw, best-selling author, speaker, intuitive, and coach. Join me as we reimagine all that our most intimate relationships can become. Today's episode is part of our conversation series. I'm just one voice in this relationship diversity movement, and it's important to bring more unique perspectives into the conversation. Today, I'm talking with author and coach, Dr. Ray Doktor, all about his transformational work with more than 6,000 clients over his 28-year career. He's found that changing just one hidden belief has unlocked many of his clients' full potential and has served as the catalyst for bringing them the life they always dreamed of. He gets into this and so much more in our conversation. But first, a little about him. Dr. Ray Doktor is a best-selling author whose book was published by the team behind the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. With a doctorate in clinical psychology and over 28 years of experience as a life and relationship coach, Dr. Ray has shared stages with some of the most influential voices in personal development, including Marianne Williamson, Bruce Lipton, John Gray, and Eckhart Tolle. His expertise has been featured on the E! Channel, HBO, and KCAL9 Los Angeles, as well as Psychology Today, Men's Health, and the Los Angeles Times. Let's get into the conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Relationship Diversity Podcast. I've got another amazing guest for you today with over 28 years of experience as a relationship coach. And he also has a doctorate in clinical psychology, and he's got a book too. This guy does a lot. Today, I have Dr. Ray Doktor here. He has so much wisdom, and I love what he talks about because I have actually had this experience and prescribed to a lot of what he talks about. So we're going to get all into that. But first, let me welcome Dr. Ray to the podcast. Welcome, Dr. Ray.
You have any drum roll in there?
Welcome.
Carrie just got back from a vacation. So I won't deflect, but, I'll...
I will. I got back from a great vacation, so I'm feeling happy and rested for the most part and excited to learn about relationships. But I'm always excited to learn about relationships because they're just so complex and yet so simple. Yep. And you're going to break it down because you've got this idea that one hidden belief could unlock your full potential, which sounds simple yet complex. Okay, so we're going to get into that just as a little teaser to those out there listening. But first, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this field over 28 years ago?
Well, just like many of us, or I'll speak from a male perspective, the idea of me finding myself was finding an attractive woman, having money, getting respect from others, and that whole dream. Mm-hmm. And in that, we watch movies, We're indoctrinated by other ideas of what the sense of self is. And so I struggled like everybody out there, from being arrested, driving under influence, to having to see a therapist. Because it's funny, the drug and alcohol counselor said to me, I don't know if you have a drinking problem, but you do create problems when you drink. Yeah, that was profound.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I'm just giving you a short story, led to me doing my own therapy and discovering myself through that process. And for whatever reason, I've just really been interested in psychology, spirituality, just human relationships. And I think I've been pretty good at it. Maybe we should ask people like who knew me back in my 20s of how rough I was, but I think I have a good perception of myself. But so yeah, that's kind of like what kind of really got me into this work. And it was probably in my early 20s when I got my first self-help book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay.
A
That
masterpiece.
and that drew connections to the body, because I even had IBS. I was a control freak. I was just hang on to everything. And so even today, when I have physical challenges, I pull out that book and it's always accurate. It's a truly a mind, body, spirit book. And so I knew there's something beyond traditional therapy or going beyond the logic, and that there's something greater than all of this thing that we only can see or hear with our ears and eyes and so forth. So yeah, I've just been interested in it. And then I ended up training under Dr. Morris Netherton, who's pretty well known, worked with some pretty well known people out there, and was his apprentice, traveled the world working with psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, using his method that at the time was called the Netherton method. And then I eventually went back to school to get my doctorate in clinical psychology and become the person I am. But yeah, so much of my experience has been more from my poor choices, though.
I'm that way too. I learned from all of the past mistakes that happened, and it inspired me because I experienced so many dramatic shifts that really shifted not only my internal world, but also what I experienced on the outside. That was what was inspiring. It's like, oh, I want to show other people how they can do this too, because it is possible for everyone. I thought it was never going to be possible for me, but it was. And it was very dramatic. And I do want to say one thing for those of you who don't know, the book that you're talking about is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And that was one of my first spiritual books. And it is all about her experience of healing herself from cancer by looking at her belief system. And that our beliefs and our illnesses are tied most of the time, I'd say all the time, to beliefs that we have within us and old programs. And so that is an incredible book. I'm going to link that in the show notes below, just because I think it's so powerful. And so as you started to develop, so you went through your own healing, which I love, and then you studied with your mentor, and then you went back to get a doctorate in clinical psychology. So you have all of this, not only individual information, but also training and teaching. And then where did you go from there? Where did your focus lead you with your clients? You start working with people?
I was working with clients because I've been doing this a really long time when I was working with Dr. Netherton. I mean, just like most coaches out there, if you get proper training, you can call yourself a coach. It's also unfortunate because there's people who say it's like those people who are like born again Christians, and prior to that they were an alcoholic, and they go to the next thing, and where they don't really embody the wisdom yet and really integrate what they need to learn. That I guess you say that there's a lot of people who can just say, I'm a coach, but it really takes doing the inner work. And when I was working with Dr. Netherton, I was already seeing clients, a lot of clients. And in fact, when I went to get my doctorate, and then you have to be supervised, what was interesting is that my business was thriving more than my supervisors. I was already rocking it. But that basically just led to so much more expansion in my life. I love doing live workshops. There's a lot of live footage out there I've gotten on TV and things like that, just to get the information out there. But I love to share. I love to teach. And the book came along actually last year, but I could have probably written my official book 5, 10, 15 years ago, but still I had a hidden belief. I'm not smart enough, or I can still learn more and make it even better. And it's interesting to watch old videos of myself, not like I pop up videos on YouTube and just watch myself and go, oh my God, and I'm amazing. No, it's where I'm like, shit, I actually knew something back then to, wow, I can see what people were saying. And back then I remember not feeling enough. I don't feel that way now. But now when I go back with kind of an open heart and a different consciousness, I can kind of go, you were ready back then.
Yeah.
You were ready way back then.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Let's go with that belief of I'm not enough. I think that is a common belief for
Mhm.
many
Yeah.
people. Let's start with where do you think that belief comes from? We'll specifically go with I'm not enough. Where do you think that comes from?
Well, that's typically the simple sentence that's derived from many different experiences, such as a woman might not feel pretty for a man out there, but if you go to the core root, I don't feel enough.
Mm.
A person might not feel smart enough, but again, they're separating themselves from God and source energy. They're not feeling enough. So I think it's a really basic statement. And that comes from comparison. That comes from what we've come to see through social media to the collective narrative of what's worthy of love or attraction. As an example, in the 80s, I still remember even like John Bon Jovi, who was married and a faithful man. I remember them trying to try to keep that quiet because he had all these female fans who were attracted to him. So they kind of wanted to kind of keep this persona, like even back then, like saying you're 28 was old. I mean, saying that today, even like you and I are close in age, and you know, we don't look like, okay, the Golden Girls were our age back then too. So just you and I growing up in the same like culture, what we saw on TV, when we kind of go, oh, I'm now 55, I'm 56. Do I feel old or do I have this impression that this is considered old? And so we will measure ourselves by what we've come to know and what has been put in front of us. And so a lot of that is through that comparison. And a lot of our worthiness is based off of what we see on TV and film. You know, it's only the models who were getting on the James Bond movies, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
all of that. And so a man might not feel enough because he sees in a movie the guy who gets the woman, he has this big home and he has this nice car. And so a lot of us think that we're not where we're supposed to be because we don't have these things added on to us. We're not living this other person's life. And so we need to ask that question, why are we comparing ourselves? Who are we really? Who are we as a true being? To like, could I be happy with just feeling my breath for this one moment?
Mm-hmm.
Can I take pause instead of trying to be performative with even Carrie on this podcast and try to sound smart? Can I connect to her heart and just have a good time? Because I
Mm-hmm.
feel good and I'm authentic. It's like when we start getting out of the comparing and what we've been programmed to be, then we start to soften. Then we start to ask questions such as, who would I be if I didn't give a shit about this? What would I be doing if like it didn't really matter if I had an education? What life would I be able to attract or create whether I had a partner or not? And there's boundless forms of abundance on this planet right now that have nothing to do with what we were taught.
Definitely. I notice that that comparison aspect starts at a certain age. And I'll say, I didn't notice this when I was going through this time, but I noticed it watching my son is that there was this change. And I think it happened maybe around 7 or 8, where it was like he was only aware of his world. And then there was a shift to, oh, there are these others around me. And that's where the comparison started. And I have heard that that's a developmental step that most children go through at a certain age, may range a little bit from kid to kid. But I'm thinking if that's something that is so, because I do remember being 10, 11 and looking at my friends and saying, well, that friend has way more money than my family. And that friend has stable parents and mine aren't. So that comparison starts so young and unconsciously that it starts to really dig into the subconscious level when you're an adult and you really don't even realize that you're doing it until you stop and say, oh, now this is something that I'm doing. And it seems like that awareness is the first place to start to shift it. What are your thoughts on that?
And it's also given kids the being transparent and being able to communicate to them at a level in which they understand. As an example, my partner, she has a son who is a year and a half younger than my son. And he used to get all spun out in certain moments. He's very emotional, a bunch of planets in Scorpio. I don't want to like that, but that's enough for you to kind of go, okay, I can kind of get that little hypersensitive type, where then he would just make comments like his problems were because his mom and dad were not together. He created this narrative and he would just bring it up. And no matter what Nicole would say, it wasn't working. But I ended up interjecting and it just stopped. But he doesn't know that they were not even together that long. It was like a year, and that was mostly unhappy. So here he's watching other parents be happy together, and then he's imploding. And maybe, again, I'm speaking for him, maybe creating the idea that my home is not as happy as this home. Maybe it's because my parents are not together. He's seeing his parents be cordial because they're doing that purposely because they're in front of him. Well, why are they not married? Mm-hmm. And he just kept going on and on about this, meaning that it was like an ongoing thing. And where they also didn't talk to him because they were taught by the Waldorf school, or just because there's all kinds of different type of Waldorf schools, but it's where that you want to keep their minds innocent, to where you just share very little words and like almost like let them discover it. But if they don't have a reference point and what they see is not true, and then they start creating their own stories, then there's a possible chance that they're going to create a negative narrative. So what I did is I pulled out a YouTube video and I showed a couple fighting. And it wasn't a real couple. It wasn't like Jerry Springer beating the shit out of each other. It was actually like a demonstration thing, maybe even acting, I think. And I said, what do you feel when you see this? He said, this is not good. I said, so I go, do you know your mom and dad used to do this? No. I said, yeah, you don't remember. I said, do you see your dad happier with his partner? And her son said, yes. I said, do you see your mom smiling with me? He says, yes. I said, so because they had this, they went to go find other partners, so they're happier. Would you want your parents to be happy or like this? What would it be like if they were like this? How do you think you'd feel? And there was that kind of like pause. And I said, so when you keep saying you wish they were together, what you're wishing for is possibly this. This will show up. And even they ended the relationship so you would have better support separately. And so that shifted the narrative, never came up again.
How old was he when you were having that conversation? Just curious.
He was between 6 and 7. Yeah, pretty young.
Yeah. I'm sure that it changes the course of his future in relationships,
Absolutely.
right? Because if he were to be going through on the course of, I wish my parents were together, and not understanding with the context that you gave him, he'd be going down one road and creating relationships from that belief system. You helped him shift younger, and so he can now go down another course. And I think that's what you mean when you're saying that, because, you know, we talk about relationships in this podcast, all different kinds of relationships, but that these single beliefs can really dictate how you relate to other people, because it is how you relate to yourself and the belief system that you have within yourself. Is that correct?
I want to say you're actually pretty awesome in how you drew that connection.
Oh,
you really did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sometimes I have conversations, I have no idea if it's landing, or they'll put together a map. No one's going to want to interview me ever again. They're going, this guy judges the internet. No, I'm not. I'm celebrating it. Absolutely. Yeah. So you're right, because that type of thinking of her son would develop a codependent pattern. My happiness is contingent on whether someone's there or not, or the misery in my life is because my parents got a divorce. You have no idea how many clients I've worked with where it's that it wasn't because of the divorce, because they didn't talk to you. They didn't include you. They didn't they didn't make you feel relevant in this experience. And so we have to do damage control later on. But yeah, that one single belief and it can come from that. I'll give you a really good example. My son, it's funny we're talking about relationships. I always wonder what people think sometimes, given the stories I share, because I teach people how to stay married. I teach people how to have an amicable divorce. And yet when I share my backstory and things that had happened, it sometimes could be like questionable. I don't know. But so Max showed up, my son, literally when he was 5.5 months old. I did not know his mother was pregnant with my child. So you can imagine the trauma she went through, all this things you're thinking now, like, wow, what happened? I don't want to take up this whole conversation about that. However, he had never seen his mother and I together. We weren't dating. She was actually married. When we got together, she was separated. And so he had never seen us go together, hold hands or anything. So from the get-go, I was having conversations with her to normalize all of this, especially when he started living with me full time. Yeah, a man has raised a boy primarily by myself. His mother would see him every other weekend when we lived in California. I live in Ashland, Oregon right now. I moved her up here also a year after we got up here. So she's down the street. But he would be picked up only by me. He never saw his mom around. Mm-hmm. So remember, you have Peppa Pig and you have these cartoons where it's two parents together. Not once did he compare himself and go, why don't I have a mommy? To anything like that. My best friend Amy is his godmother. I surrounded him with strong women, strong entrepreneur women. And so he knows nothing but strong women. Amazing. Healthy women from that perspective, because I was thinking, if I don't have a partner, I want him to have an experience that he knows what a healthy woman is. So I allowed my tribe to help shape that part and fill in that. And he's never felt like he was different in a bad way or anything. He knows nothing. I was never a father going, oh my God, I'm alone. I can't do it, son. Help me. Project my shit onto him. What's wrong with us? He's only seen confidence. And his mom looks up to me, and his mom always says positive things about me. I helped her out and get her back on her feet. She sees me as a father figure, and all he has seen is this man help out him and his mother and most people in the community. And that's it. He doesn't have any trauma. He doesn't have any like weird stuff that people talk about by being a single parent.
There's a couple of things that you said that I love, one of which is this idea of normalizing what has worked for you, and that it doesn't look like what we see out there. Yes. And what he sees, but it's normalizing something that is diverse and different and positive and healthy for you guys, which leads me into the next thing, in that my biggest inspiration for this podcast is that for any kind of these relationships, and I mainly talk about intimate relationships, but that we all do it in our own way. And yet we're all trying to fit it into some kind of box, which is the trauma. My relationship does not look like your relationship, does not look like their relationship. And it creates trauma of like, I'm trying to fit into something that doesn't fit for me. And so I applaud you for doing it your way, for having your community around you and being able to select healthy experiences for your son, which is incredible. And it is a testament to what I talk about all the time, which is design what works for you. Let everything else go and look at what is your life. Who are the people in your life, and what does everyone want, and how can we come together to design something that works well for us? So that is awesome and very exciting, and a great example for all you out there listening that it doesn't have to be done like everyone else. And if you can release that expectation of having your relationship have to look a certain way, you will find your full potential and you will unlock your full potential, as Ray says.
So there's a client that I'm going to be working with this week where so interesting how those patterns have showed up in his life. And that is where he had a stepfather who was abusive and talked down to him and treated him like a piece of shit. So that was normalized. So when you say normalize, it
Right.
can go either way,
Yes.
abuse or positive. I chose a positive path. So this man chooses a woman who he finds out later on was actually a lesbian, told him how she was turned off by him, all of this stuff, but he took it. A man who was healthy maybe would have walked away, but it was normal for him to be picked on because his stepfather normalized that. That's
Yeah.
why I want people to hear that sometimes it's not about trauma, it's just a program. It's all you've known. It's all you've known. And of course, that led to even in at work, of course, he chose bosses who treated him like shit because it was normal to him. So we normalize abuse, but we also can normalize expansion. We can make that, no matter what situation we are in, we can make it look positive. This is an extreme, but I share this with people and they kind of go, wow. And this is how it was sometimes with Max because his mother was suffering with PTSD. It's gone now, but she used to be brutal sometimes with the communication. And yes, she's apologized and everything. But it's kind of like the very ending of the movie Life is Beautiful when he's going to be caught by the Nazis, the father, and he has his son hide in this certain little box or whatever it is, almost looks like a telephone booth. And he's just marching and he's joking and he's just keeping happy. And then his father goes around a corner and you hear gunshots. So, not that I push down emotions in a negative way around my son, but regardless of what was happening around him, I knew no matter what, I was going to do everything I could do to shield him from that. Even, his mother at the time thought I was doing this because I was generous, but it wasn't just that. It was that I did not want him at her house. I paid for full-time daycare and I didn't want that, but at her house, it was unhealthy. It was toxic. So, and she knows this. I share this with her openly now because I wanted him to be subjected to learning happier people versus her getting into it with her mother and brother and all of that. And so it's so important what our kids witness.
Absolutely.
So important. They change through how we model our life, how we walk our talk. I mean, sure, we can say, do it this way, Billy. No, Billy. But if we're not walking that talk, they won't copy that either.
Right. They're wise. Children are way wise.
Absolutely.
And they are very intuitive and can tell whether they consciously understand it or not, what is going on. And so I
Yes.
want to go to that kid who had more of a toxic or unhealthy childhood and is now grown up and is in a relationship that is not working for them and not healthy. And they come to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this idea that one hidden belief, just uncovering and changing one hidden belief could unlock their fullest potential. So how do you start your work with them? How do you start that process of uncovering and then changing that hidden belief?
So first off, a person, when they finally reach out to me, that's when they're no longer in denial. They recognize that after 3 divorces, it might be them. After they keep self-sabotaging, they just recognize that. And so they're typically open. And when they go to me or someone else, and you start asking that person the question, the client the question, they'll say, my dad was abusive, to my mother was an alcoholic, or I was abandoned. So that's as far as they've come to know about the story. But what they don't know is what they said to themselves, to even how they can change things about themselves to change that narrative. So as an example, the person who comes to me and had kind of an abusive father, it would be something like this. When your father was talking down to you, how did you feel about yourself? I felt bad. And what did you say to yourself? Well, I deserve this, or I'm unworthy, to I'm a piece of shit. Okay. So once you imagine your father disappearing, whether he's there or not, who's saying this to you now? I'm saying this to myself. Why? And then usually there's this pause. I'm just kind of giving you a quick
Yeah, I love this. Yeah.
notes. And it's, well, I said, okay, so you now say this, but you keep saying it's because you're a dad. But when you give it to your dad, you can't take responsibility for how you're talking to yourself. If you were to say something positive about yourself, what would it be? The person might say, well, I can't. Why? Then I didn't go to college, to other things. I said, so in other words, to be positive or worthy, you have to be smart enough. You have to be a college graduate. Of course, there's questions where they recognize they're just creating these limited beliefs to continue to feel unworthy. And we just keep breaking it down. And of course, if they've had say, deep trauma, like betrayal by a parent who sexually abused them, trust is a big issue. So even before we go there, I would even work with a client and say, I'm a man, and a man once hurt you before. What do you need to know in this now moment to even trust me? What do you need to know that you have control of your agency in this very now moment? And I start more with just their relationship to trust itself. And just even with that, before we can start working on a trauma, we recognize that they have more of an issue of trust themselves than anything else. So if that's true and they start working with me and underneath that they have trust issues, they're not going to really process what we're doing. There's going to be some wall. And so little beliefs like that are easy to I'm making it sound a lot easier. And if someone reads my book, I break it down in a simple pace, and where you kind of can understand. As an example, there's this simple exercise that I call return to love. And you're supposed to quickly do this, free associate. And you answer it, love means fill in the blank. My family taught me that love meant fill in the blank. I received love when I fill in the blank. I didn't receive love when okay? Answers that come up is love equals pain to me. My family taught me that love has to be earned. I received love when I achieved good grades. I didn't receive love when I disagreed with my parents. So we need to shift those beliefs. Those might become, love means I'll get hurt becomes I am safe to receive. I'm safe to receive and give love. My family taught me that love must be earned becomes I am loved unconditionally. I received love when I got good grades becomes I receive love every day because I am love. I didn't receive love when I disagreed with my parents becomes I'm authentic and loved for who I am. And so those are beliefs that we change. And some people might say it's just too simple. Then I would ask, well, what's the secondary gain to believe that belief?
Right. So I love that awareness. And I know that is always the first step. Is I can't shift anything I don't know. And
Yes.
so how do you help people to release it in the heart, right? Because we can have an understanding in the head.
Yes.
But still somatically, we're feeling that all of the emotions and the programs are still in our body. So do you have techniques or ways that you help people somatically really shift these beliefs?
Well, first off, I believe in somatic work. And when I work with clients, we always go there. But for my book, I only could do so much with words. But I do invite people, and I use language that's based in feelings. It's based in ways to get there anyway. But as an example, it could be where it's a woman who is perpetrated. So she can't trust men. Well, before she can even trust men and put herself out there, she has to trust herself. So she might close her eyes and she might put her hand over her pelvic region. She might inhale through her nose deep into her body, into the pelvic area, and just listen to the wisdom that comes from that part of her body. And as she continues to do this, she might start to cry, she might to release stuff. But in that, it's not just going into emotions, it's actually possibly going into the story that comes up from that and taking out a journal and seeing what it says. And might say, I feel dirty, guilty, shame, whatever it is. Okay, these are things you feel, but how would you want to feel? It would be beautiful, seen, safe, and so forth. Well, then it would be taking those words, doing the same exercise, putting the hands over the pelvic area, breathing into it, and what do I need to know right now for me to feel safe in this part of my body? What do I need to know for myself to know that I'm beautiful, pure, and still innocent? And it's not like an overnight thing, However, I have seen things shift in one session. I have. I've seen crazy stuff happen. And
Yeah.
so words can be very powerful if they're words that are coming from your soul. Words can be really powerful if it's not speaking to your head, but speaking to your body.
Definitely. And I think that's where it needs to come from, or else it's like the body never lies. And that's why somatic
The
work.
body keeps score. The
Yeah.
body keeps score.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like if you feel it in your body, you can try to talk yourself out of it all you want, but the body's going to tell you what's going on. And I agree with you. I do an energetic modality called theta healing, which is a cellular belief shifting modality. And I have seen things shift instantly. It doesn't always happen that way. And sometimes when they have been with you for a long time, these beliefs, it is a process. And I want to say that with all the love out to anyone who's listening, because self-compassion is really important in the process as you heal things that you've lived with for most of your life, to have compassion for the timing and for your process and knowing that it is a process. And reaching out to someone like Ray or another coach that you resonate with to start this work if you can, and if you have the ability to do so, to know that it is a process. As I've been on this self-evolution process for, 35 years, and some things pop out instantly and some things take a while. And I find myself going, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still dealing with that. That is not self-compassion. So coming back to, I love myself, I'm doing a great job, and having my meditation or yoga or just deep breaths or walk out in nature that
Carrie,
can
you never
ground that
say
in.
this. You never say this, right? I'm a coach. I should know this shit.
Oh, totally. Totally. I help people with this. Why have I not learned this?
And,
Oh my
and by the
gosh.
way, here's the thing. So I'm moving from this area and I see primarily holistic doctors. And with whatever testing we do, whatever, what comes up is that I have experienced high stress. But if you were to talk to me and see me, I'm pretty fucking confident. I am, okay? And I don't like run from problems. I was raised by a Marine who was in 700 missions, 300 in battle.
Holy
So I
moly.
was raised by a badass who, like, so he would take on things like, so you don't see me in a fearful way. However, my adrenals don't lie, my kidneys don't lie. And deep in there with my son's allergy issues, living in a valley with a real bad air inversion, I've been trying to figure out him. Like at night, I'm not really sleeping because I'm worried in my kidneys. So we're obviously approaching it from a Chinese medicine perspective, herbs and everything else, but consciously and logically, I'm fine. But my adrenals, oh, they don't lie. And
No.
it was really strange for me to kind of go, well, I guess maybe I have been living in fear about my son Max. To, oh, the one thing I've come to work through here it is. And this is what brought me to even get into Louise Hay's book also, is I had IBS. I was a control freak. It was infecting my bowel movements. And when I healed that emotionally, I healed it after
Wow.
13 years. So with my son, it's also recognizing I can't control his destiny, that he's here on his own free will also. To worrying is not going to make it better. Like I had to go to those hidden beliefs like, oh shit, I have fear around this and this is okay. I guess I don't want to admit it because I don't want him to see his dad being fear and so forth. You know what I mean? To the extreme where I push down my emotions into my kidneys.
Yeah.
And I'm a pro
Yeah.
at this shit, but I
I
did
know. But we're
so,
also on this
yeah.
journey ourselves.
So I'm chopping up ashwagandha and snorting it. I'm just trying to whatever I can do to. Not,
To
I'm
heal
kidding.
those adrenals.
Yeah, yeah. So
Adrenal fatigue is quite a thing. And, gosh, cortisol and stress is really the root of so many illnesses, breaks down our immune system and all of that. So, wow. So there's so much here. And I would love to ask you more about your book and how your book is laid out, what someone, if they ordered your book from this podcast, what they would find when they received it, and the process you take people through.
I love how you invite me to that space. So the book is called All It Takes Is One, Drop Your One Big Hidden Belief and Master Your Life. And of course, you'll have a link to my website where you can go to it directly. It is on Amazon. You can find it in over 35,000 retailers out there as well, if you don't want to like give money to Amazon. You just would probably have to order the book and they'll get it for you, whatever your favorite bookstore is. But the book jumps right into a case study from the get-go and a difficult case to show how the strong woman broke through her limited beliefs. And then it goes right into stripping away and helping you understand the structure of consciousness and in a very simple way. So it almost works as a workbook and it takes you from the beginning until the ending. And if you just go on Amazon and read the reviews, it's pretty awesome. Like, so again, remember, I didn't feel good enough, all that bullshit, or smart enough. And here's the truth. When I wrote the book, I had no idea how it would be received. But what people have written about it, oh my God, so good. And it's exactly that. Whether you're a beginner or advanced, this is the book for you too. How the author makes this really simple to understand. It's actually like only 180 pages also. I want it to be really concise. And I really read, no bullshit, over 500 self-help books. I did, because I did not feel enough. And I've listened to probably 100 hours of Abraham Hicks also.
Yeah.
So I could just be tapped into source because I wanted to be smarter than I don't know who. But I guess what came out of it was something really simple. And that's the book. And you'll be able to go on this journey and be asked these certain questions to reveal those parts of yourself. And from this, it doesn't mean that you're going to be healed forever. But what people are saying is that they're feeling shifts. They're having that experience. And this will be something you can take in with your coach or therapist. I've had hundreds and hundreds of copies bought by therapists and coaches. It's a really great companion for someone who's on this healing journey. Because if you feel like you're getting stuck, it talks about why you might feel stuck. If you have secondary gains, I open up all the secondary gains and why they come up. If you're questioning a practitioner who's not walking his talk, I talk about the shadows of the healing work. So I give the reader everything as much as I could in that moment.
Right. I love that. Well, that is so inspiring. And we're going to have the link for the book in the show notes so someone could just go down there and easily click to order the book. And it sounds really incredible and clear and concise. And I appreciate that because sometimes I get lost in all the words of all the different self-help books, and it gets to be too much and too confusing, especially if you're trying to navigate that on your own and not with a coach or a therapist. So I appreciate the simplicity of the process.
Well, Carrie, have pretty much most self-help books that incorporate maybe like positive thoughts, law of attraction, they're saying the same thing. Do you skim through it and you kind of go, oh, so you're basically trying to say this?
Yeah, yes. But I usually start it and don't finish it.
Yeah.
There are those that I do. There are those that are like the big ones, right? That have had a huge impact. But there are a lot of them that I start it and I skim it and I'm like, it's just too convoluted. And I work in the energetic field. Energy feels just more concise and clear for me than words, but that's me. So everyone works differently. More mental people, emotional people, energetic. What is your strength and how can you find something that really helps you and speaks to you? And so I'm so excited for this book. It's called All It Takes Is One. And you're talking about that one hidden belief that could really create the life that I think people dream of, that they want, that fulfilling life. It is possible. And I have found that finding the hidden beliefs and shifting those really makes permanent, and I will say permanent, significant differences in your experience in life.
Carrie, you're probably one of the first people I've heard that said permanent. I say it too.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
say it too. Thank you. Like this whole forever processing. It's like, no.
Yeah. Well, that's why I like to work in the energetics because it's quick. And it's like we all have a lot of work to do in terms of love and coming together. And like, let's just heal our stuff and do it quickly. I don't know, as quickly as possible. But I that's why I love the energetic process. And I'll say I had my experience. It was my first experience with theta healing. And this was after my divorce. And I had always created men that would leave me. And that was because I was unhealed with my father. And in a 3-month process of very consistent, really big shadow, hard work, working with a doctor, 3 months, everything was shifted. And what was fascinating was that every single guy that came to me was completely different than any man before. And my experience was, in fact, I was the one that was breaking up. And I wrote a book, Why Do They Always Break Up With Me? And that was that. Why do they always break up with me? It was because of that unhealed experience with my dad and all the beliefs that surrounded it. And it really never has gone back to that. It has been a permanent
Just
shift.
so awesome. Yeah, that is so awesome because you changed, because even that, you can say, I created an innocent program that this is what's supposed to happen. I remember meeting women who could never have a man like commit or stay in a long-term relationship to where they didn't have abuse. Their father was a pilot, never around, just that pattern, never around. To, I can't live in one space. I don't know why. Oh, my father was in the military. We traveled a lot.
Yeah.
Like we will acclimate to those experiences, and we might think that that's the norm.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to be trauma. It could just be, what did I see and witness all the time?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. And going back to what you said, what did I normalize, as that is just the way that it is.
Yeah.
And so this work is really powerful. I'm going to encourage you, if you're out there hearing this and you resonate with everything Ray has said, please go down. It's just going to be a click away to get his book. And anything else you want to leave us with? You've got a great Instagram page and YouTube where you offer free resources and wisdom. So I would highly recommend, we'll have all your links again in the show notes as well. Anything else you want to leave us with?
Just keep it easy. Keep it simple. All you need is love.
Yes. I know it sounds so cliche, but it really is the truth. It really is. My prayer always is, may everyone know love and know joy and be free from suffering. If we really all were able to live in that way, I do think this world would be a much more peaceful place for all of us. And our relationships would all be really yummy and just everything we want it to be, whatever we want it to be, pleasurable in all the ways. So, well, Ray, thank you so much for being here. And everyone, please go connect with Ray. Thanks so much for listening to the Relationship Diversity Podcast. Want to learn more about relationship diversity? I've got a free guide I'd love to send you. Go to www.relationshipdiversitypodcast.com to get yours sent right to you. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to the podcast. You being here and participating in the conversation about relationship diversity is what helps us create a space of inclusivity and acceptance together. The more comfortable and normal it is to acknowledge the vast and varied relating we all do, the faster we'll shift to a paradigm of conscious, intentional, and diverse relationships. New episodes are released every Thursday. Stay connected with me through my website, carriejaroslaw.com, Instagram, or TikTok. Stay curious. Every relationship is as unique as you are. Are you wondering why you never seem to find lasting fulfillment in your relationships? Or do you create the same kinds of relationship experiences over and over again? Can you never seem to find even one person who you want to explore a relationship with? Have you just given up hope altogether? If this sounds like you, my recent book, Why Do They Always Break Up With Me, is the perfect place to start. The foundation of any relationship, whether intimate or not, is the relationship we have with ourselves. In the book, I lead you through 8 clear steps to start or continue your self-exploration journey. You'll learn about the importance of self-acceptance, gratitude, belief shifting, and forgiveness, and given exercises to experience these life-changing concepts. This is the process I use to shift my relationships from continual heartbreak to what they are now, fulfilling, soul-nourishing, compassionate, and loving. It is possible for you. This book can set you on a path to get there. Currently available through Amazon or through the link in the show notes.